Antidepressants work for Brooke Shields. Why isn't that okay?
I disagree with it. And I think that there's a higher and better quality of life.
You may admire Tom Cruise. You may see him as a Hollywood icon, a living legend. But what if the reality behind the scenes is far from the dazzling image he projects? For years, whispers of obsession, dual personalities, and absolute control have followed him. But these are no longer just rumors. The actors who have worked alongside him, those who have seen the real Cruise when the cameras stop rolling, are finally speaking out. 6 actors, 6 witnesses. Their stories confirm what many have long suspected. What really lies behind that megawatt smile? What has turned one of the world's most celebrated stars into the center of such chilling accusations? The truth is coming out, and it's not what you expect. Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. The rivalry Hollywood never talks about. Hollywood is filled with behind-the-scenes mysteries, stories the public is never officially told. One of the most intriguing is the unspoken rivalry between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. While neither has publicly clashed or spoken ill of the other, what happened during and after the filming of Interview with the Vampire, 1994, has led many to believe that a silent competition has existed between them for decades. In 1994, Interview with the Vampire premiered, becoming one of the most memorable films of the decade. Adapted from Anne Rice's best-selling novel, the film brought together 2 of Hollywood's biggest stars, Tom Cruise as Lestat de Lioncourt, a powerful and charismatic vampire, and Brad Pitt as Louis de Pointe-du-Lac, a man-turned-vampire who struggles with his immortal existence. At first glance, the film seemed like the perfect opportunity for both actors to shine. However, during filming, Pitt quickly realized that he and Cruise were complete opposites. In an interview, Pitt admitted he felt trapped throughout the shoot, not just because of the film's dark themes, but because of the palpable tension between him and Cruise. Pitt described Cruise as an actor who was extremely focused, highly disciplined, and relentlessly driven. But that same intensity created an emotional distance between them. While Cruise was known for his obsessive perfectionism, Pitt valued creative freedom and spontaneity, a stark contrast that made it nearly impossible for them to connect. Brad Pitt once spoke candidly about working with Cruise, saying, "He bugged me. There came a point during filming where I started resenting him. He's North Pole, I'm South Pole. He's always coming at you with a smile. I don't have that. I admire it, but it's just not me." That quote says it all. Cruise radiated confidence, always pushing forward with boundless energy, while Pitt was more introspective, preferring a relaxed, natural approach to his work. Their clashing personalities created an invisible but undeniable tension on set. But it wasn't just their working styles that set them apart. It was their entire worldview. Cruise pursued success at all costs, dedicating himself fully to his craft and always striving to be the best. Pitt, on the other hand, valued the journey more than the destination. He admitted feeling restricted working with Cruise, as Cruise's impossibly high standards often pushed those around him to their limits. A source from the production crew revealed that throughout filming, Cruise and Pitt rarely spoke outside of their scenes. There was no outright hostility, but a quiet competition was evident. Cruise exuded confidence and took charge, while Pitt kept his distance, unwilling to be drawn into a battle of egos. After Interview with the Vampire, both actors went on to have illustrious careers, but they almost never mentioned each other. Cruise cemented himself as one of Hollywood's greatest action stars with the Mission Impossible franchise, embodying strength, resilience, and the ability to overcome any challenge. Pitt, meanwhile, took a very different path, favoring artistic, character-driven roles over blockbuster action films. From Fight Club, 1999, to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, 2008, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019, Pitt made it clear that he never aspired to be a Hollywood megastar in the same way as Cruise. He wanted to be an artist. This fundamental difference may explain why they never reunited on screen. Not because they disliked each other, but because they belonged to two completely different cinematic worlds. Though Pitt never openly criticized Cruise, an interesting pattern emerged in his career. He rarely took on roles similar to Cruise's. It was almost as if he intentionally avoided stepping into Cruise's territory. Even in action films like Mr. and Mrs. Smith 2005 and World War Z 2013, Pitt brought a different energy, one that lacked the steely, larger-than-life presence that Cruise consistently exuded. This raises an intriguing question. Did Brad Pitt deliberately carve out his own lane to avoid comparisons with Tom Cruise? While no one can say for sure, one thing is clear. Pitt has always distanced himself from the image of a flawless action hero, the very essence of what Cruise represents. Their relationship may not be an outright feud, but it is undoubtedly a silent rivalry. Cruise has always sought to be the best, while Pitt has simply wanted to do what he loves. And perhaps that is the very thing that will always keep them apart.
Richard Harris's work and Ray Winstone's work. That's the kind of actor I want to be, like Monty Clift and, Brando back in the day, and a lot of...
Mickey Rourke, a true Hollywood maverick, has built a career filled with highs and lows. Known for his blunt personality and unfiltered opinions, Rourke has never hesitated to speak his mind about fellow actors. One of the names he has openly criticized is none other than Tom Cruise. In a controversial 2022 interview, when asked about the success of Top Gun: Maverick, Rourke bluntly responded, "That doesn't mean sade to me. The guy's been doing the same fighting part for 35 years. I got no respect for that." This statement instantly caused a stir. Tom Cruise isn't just one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He's a symbol of dedication and discipline in the industry. However, Rourke saw things differently. In his eyes, Cruise was an actor who kept repeating the same type of role without true transformation. To understand why Mickey Rourke holds such a harsh view of Tom Cruise, we must first look at their backgrounds and approaches to acting. Rourke trained under Lee Strasberg and Stella Adler, legendary figures in method acting. This approach demands complete immersion into a character, with actors like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Daniel Day-Lewis embodying this philosophy, often living through their characters' emotions even after the cameras stop rolling. Tom Cruise, on the other hand, is one of Hollywood's biggest commercial superstars, a man who relentlessly pursues a strong, reliable, and flawless image. His roles are iconic: Maverick in Top Gun, Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, and the ambitious young lawyer in A Few Good Men. But from Rourke's perspective, these roles don't require deep artistic transformation. The fundamental difference between the two actors lies in their attitude toward spontaneity in acting. Rourke, ever the rebel, believes cinema should be an explosion of raw emotion, a space where actors live through their characters instinctively. He has often recounted moments when he disregarded the script entirely, creating unexpected moments that brought his characters to life. Cruise, on the other hand, is a man obsessed with perfection. He meticulously studies every scene, ensuring that everything, from his line delivery to the subtlest gestures, is calculated to precision. While this level of control has solidified his reputation as an elite performer, it has also made him appear rigid in the eyes of those who embrace a more spontaneous approach. Tom Cruise is not just a great actor, he is a perfectionist to an extreme degree. When he commits to a film, he doesn't just play a role, he studies every minute detail to ensure absolute authenticity. If the film requires combat scenes, Cruise will train in martial arts for months. If he needs to fly a plane, he will learn how to pilot an actual fighter jet. This dedication has turned Cruise into a symbol of professionalism, but it has also created a certain distance between him and his peers, especially those who thrive on improvisation, like Mickey Rourke. One famous example of Cruise's perfectionism occurred during the filming of Mission Impossible: Fallout 2018. In a Halo, high-altitude, low-opening skydiving scene, Cruise refused to use a stunt double and performed the jump himself. He leaped from over 25,000 feet an astonishing 106 times just to capture the perfect shot. Or in Top Gun: Maverick 2022, he insisted that the entire cast undergo months of pilot training to ensure their performances looked as authentic as possible. These stories highlight Cruise's incredible dedication, but they also raise a question: must an actor control every single aspect of a performance to this extent? One of the biggest drawbacks of Cruise's obsession with perfection is that it can make him seem somewhat distant from his colleagues. Mickey Rourke is not the only actor to have criticized Cruise for this. Brad Pitt, during the filming of Interview with the Vampire, 1994, described working with Cruise as challenging, noting that his co-star was overly focused on maintaining his image rather than forming deeper connections with fellow actors. Even director Steven Spielberg, who collaborated with Cruise on Minority Report 2002, once suggested that Cruise's need for control could create tension on set. Rourke has expressed the belief that an actor shouldn't be overly concerned with how they look on screen, but should instead prioritize the emotional depth of their character. In his eyes, Cruise may be an incredibly hard worker, but he is not, in the truest sense, an artist. Despite the criticism, one undeniable truth remains. Tom Cruise is one of the most successful actors in Hollywood history. His films consistently break box office records, and while Mickey Rourke may not see him as a great actor, audiences continue to love the characters he brings to life. So, does Cruise need to change his acting style to prove himself as a true artist? The answer is probably no. What's better than starting the day with a delicious cup of tea and watching this fascinating video together? Tom Cruise and John Travolta, two legendary Hollywood icons, two of the most powerful stars to emerge from the controversial world of Scientology. And yet, for decades, they have been rumored to be locked in an unspoken rivalry. Both men are devout followers of the Church of Scientology, but instead of being allies, they have become polar opposites, like two warriors vying for the #1 spot in the church's inner circle. Stories of jealousy, favoritism, and a growing rift between them have shaped one of Hollywood's most intriguing behind-the-scenes sagas. John Travolta was there first. He joined Scientology at a pivotal moment in his career, just as his breakout role in Carrie, 1976, was propelling him into stardom. Over the years, Scientology became an integral part of his life. Travolta firmly believed that the church had helped him navigate various hardships, from professional struggles to personal losses. Some even speculated that Scientology shielded him from scandals, safeguarded his reputation, and elevated him to Hollywood's elite ranks. Then came Tom Cruise. In 1986, Top Gun exploded at the box office, turning Cruise into one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Around that time, he was introduced to Scientology through his then-wife, Mimi Rogers. It didn't take long for Cruise to ascend within the organization. David Miscavige, Scientology's supreme leader, appeared to have a particular fondness for him, seeing Cruise as the chosen one, a living embodiment of the church's ideals, success, fame, and influence. Travolta, understandably, was not pleased. For years, he had been Scientology's golden boy, a cherished and revered figure within the church. But things were shifting. Cruise was taking over that position, and there was nothing Travolta could do to stop it. According to a former Scientology member, Travolta was deeply envious of the special treatment Cruise received. Tom Cruise gets treated like a god in Scientology, a source revealed. He has his own staff, personal assistants, chefs, drivers. Travolta never got that kind of treatment, even though he had been around much longer. Within Scientology, Cruise enjoyed privileges that no one else did. The church assigned him a dedicated team to cater to his every need, from personal care to career assistance. Some reports even claimed that Scientology members were ordered to renovate Cruise's homes and vehicles without compensation. For someone like Travolta, who had devoted his entire career to Scientology, this was nothing short of a slap in the face. Beyond that, Cruz received personal mentorship directly from Miscavige. The Scientology leader allegedly held private meetings to coach Cruz on how to integrate the church's teachings into his daily life. Travolta, despite being a veteran member, was never granted such exclusive attention. This further distanced him from Cruz and deepened his sense of being sidelined. A particularly revealing account comes from former Scientology executive Mike Rinder, who detailed the situation in his book, A Billion Years, My Escape from a Life in the Highest Ranks of Scientology. Rinder, who once held a high-ranking position in the church, stated that Travolta was far from pleased about Cruz's meteoric rise within the organization. According to Rinder, Travolta always felt that Cruz was excessively favored while he himself was being pushed aside. John was used to being the #1 guy, and then Tom came in and took that spot. It didn't sit well with him. As Cruz became increasingly intertwined with Scientology, Travolta gradually withdrew. He remained a loyal follower, but he was no longer positioned as the face of the church. Some sources even suggested that Travolta attempted to use his influence to undermine Cruz's standing within the organization, but to no avail. Their relationship grew more distant over time. Outwardly, they maintained a cordial front, but insiders knew there was no true friendship between them. While Cruz continued to rise within Scientology, cementing his place as Miscavige's most trusted ally, Travolta became a fading shadow of his former prominence. There are several reasons for this shift. First and foremost, Cruz is one of the most globally recognized celebrities. His career has never faltered, and he has always maintained a commanding, charismatic public image, making him the ideal ambassador for Scientology's message. Travolta, on the other hand, though still a well-respected actor, never quite matched Cruz's meteoric success. Additionally, Travolta faced persistent personal rumors, something Scientology likely preferred to distance itself from. Another crucial factor is personality. Cruz is an undeniable force. His energy, conviction, and ability to inspire make him a magnetic figure. And in the world of Scientology, that may have been all that mattered.
Antidepressants work for Brooke Shields. Why isn't that okay?
I disagree with it. And I think that there's a higher and better quality of life.
In 2005, Brooke Shields ignited an important conversation with her memoir, Down Came the Rain, My Journey Through Postpartum Depression. In the book, she bravely detailed her struggles with postpartum depression, the overwhelming despair, the sense of disconnect from her newborn, and the intrusive thoughts that haunted her. Shields credited antidepressants with helping her regain stability and emphasized that seeking medical treatment was a lifeline, not a weakness. Her openness aimed to destigmatize postpartum depression and reassure mothers that they were not alone. Then Tom Cruise entered the conversation and turned it into a firestorm. In an interview with Access Hollywood, Cruise, a devout Scientologist, publicly condemned Shields for using antidepressants, claiming they were dangerous and unnecessary. He went further, denouncing psychiatry as a whole, stating, "I've never agreed with psychiatry. Before I was a Scientologist, I never believed in it, and when I studied its history, I understood more and more why I didn't trust it." His comments sparked outrage. Shields had shared her story to help struggling mothers, yet Cruise, with no medical expertise, dismissed the entire field of psychiatry. Shields didn't stay silent. In an op-ed for the New York Times, she fired back, "Tom Cruise should stick to saving the world from aliens and let women decide what treatment options are best for them." The reference to his role in War of the Worlds was a sharp jab, but her message was clear. Mental health should not be dictated by Hollywood stars. The backlash against Cruise was immediate. Medical professionals and mental health advocates criticized his statements, warning that they could discourage women from seeking help. Shields, on the other hand, received an outpouring of support for standing her ground. The controversy didn't just put postpartum depression in the spotlight, it became a pivotal moment in the conversation about women's health care rights. Realizing he had crossed a line, Cruise later took an unexpected step. He personally apologized. In 2006, He visited Shields at her home, expressing regret for his comments. Shields later recalled the meeting, saying, "He came over and apologized, and I thought that was really nice because it takes a big person to do that." Their feud ended, and in a surprising twist, Shields even attended Cruise's wedding to Katie Holmes later that year. Beyond a Hollywood scandal, the Shields-Cruise feud had a lasting impact. It forced mental health awareness into mainstream media, encouraging more women to seek treatment without fear of judgment. While Cruise's remarks may have damaged his credibility at the time, his willingness to admit fault showed a rare moment of humility. In the end, this was more than just a celebrity clash. It was a battle over who gets to control the narrative on mental health, and Shields made sure that women's voices were heard. What's better than starting the day with a delicious cup of tea and watching this fascinating video together? With a career spanning decades, Richard Harris worked alongside some of the greatest talents in Hollywood and witnessed the industry evolve through different eras. Yet when it came to Tom Cruise, the legendary actor was far from impressed. In fact, Harris had some particularly biting remarks about the superstar, famously stating, "He's good at running, but that's all he does." To Harris, Cruise might have been a phenomenal box office draw, but he lacked the depth of a truly great actor. This criticism was unsurprising coming from a man who dedicated his life to the craft. Harris represented a school of acting that prioritized depth, where every glance, gesture, and intonation carried meaning. This was in stark contrast to Cruise, an actor known for high-speed chases, explosive action, and blockbuster spectacle. Harris's statement ignited a heated debate in Hollywood. Some agreed that while Cruise was undeniably talented, he might not possess the same nuanced depth as classical actors. His biggest hits, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, and The Mummy, were all action-heavy films, often featuring him sprinting through explosions or leaping off skyscrapers. However, others fiercely defended Cruise, pointing to his performances in Rain Man, Magnolia, and Born on the 4th of July. The latter even earning him an Academy Award nomination, proving he was capable of much more than just running. At its core, Harris's criticism reflected a generational divide in acting philosophy. He belonged to an era that valued raw talent, emotional depth, and complex character portrayals over spectacle and technical wizardry. His career was built on portraying deeply layered characters, requiring intense emotional range. In contrast, Cruise rose to fame during a time when Hollywood was shifting toward fast-paced blockbusters and visually stunning action films designed to captivate global audiences. Harris, an old-school artist, viewed Cruise through a lens that made it difficult for him to appreciate how the younger star had redefined modern Hollywood stardom. Yet, despite criticism from veterans like Harris, Cruise never stopped pushing himself beyond the confines of an action star. He sought out challenging roles, collaborating with some of cinema's greatest directors: Stanley Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut, Paul Thomas Anderson, Magnolia, and Michael Mann, Collateral. With each performance, Cruise proved that he was more than just a charismatic action hero, but also an actor willing to take risks and explore psychologically complex characters. That raises the question, was Richard Harris too harsh on Tom Cruise? From an achievement standpoint, Cruise has accomplished what few actors in history have. Not only has he been one of the biggest box office draws of all time, but he has also maintained control over his career, choosing bold projects and insisting on performing his own stunts to ensure authenticity. His ability to consistently reinvent himself sets him apart from many of his peers. However, Harris had every right to his opinion. While Cruise is undoubtedly a Hollywood icon, he has never quite reached the transformative brilliance associated with actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or Anthony Hopkins. Harris's critique also touches on a larger debate. Is Hollywood too reliant on spectacle-driven blockbusters at the expense of profound storytelling? Must an actor star in deeply artistic films to be considered truly great? Regardless of where one stands, Cruise's impact on cinema is undeniable. He remains one of the few actors who balance box office dominance with an unrelenting passion for his craft, consistently challenging himself with new projects. Perhaps in a way, critiques like Harris's are what fuel Cruise's relentless drive, the need to prove that he is far more than just the man who runs well, but one of the most remarkable actors of his generation.
Where is Shelley? Why is his assistant here? Scattered. People just scattered. And then I was told I didn't have the effing rank to be asking about the leader's wife. It wasn't that she was just an average person, that I didn't have the rank to ask.
For years, Leah Remini was one of the most prominent faces of Scientology, but when she left the organization, she took with her secrets that would forever change the way the world saw Tom Cruise. As a former insider, Remini had the rare opportunity to interact with Cruise beyond his Hollywood persona, witnessing a side of him that the public never saw. In her explosive book, Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology, she pulled back the curtain, revealing shocking details about the actor and his deep ties to Scientology. To the public, Tom Cruise is charismatic, always flashing a bright smile, exuding warmth, and appearing generous. But according to Remini, that was only part of the story. She recounted an unsettling incident at a party at Cruise's home. That night, he was in an exceptionally high-spirited mood, entertaining guests, including Scientology leader David Miscavige. But when a staff member accidentally dropped a cup of tea, Cruise's demeanor changed in an instant. He erupted in fury, shifting from cheerful to enraged like someone flipping a switch. Remini recalled, "It wasn't a normal human reaction. It was like watching someone perform, even in real life." One of Remini's biggest revelations was that Cruise's role in Scientology went far beyond being a dedicated follower. He wielded real influence. According to her, Cruise wasn't just admired by Miscavige, he was treated as a near-mythical figure within the church. Miscavige saw him as the ultimate Scientologist, someone all members should strive to emulate. Because of this, Cruise was given unparalleled privileges, and those working for him within the church were expected to show absolute obedience. Any mistakes made in his presence were met with severe consequences. One of the most disturbing stories Remini shared involved Tom Cruise's 2006 wedding to Katie Holmes. During the pre-wedding festivities, Remini casually asked where Shelley Miscavige was, the wife of Scientology's leader, who hadn't been seen in public for years. That single question marked her as an enemy of the church. She was soon summoned for a disciplinary meeting, where she was harshly reprimanded simply for inquiring about Shelley's whereabouts. "In Scientology, you are not allowed to ask questions," she later explained. "If you do, you become the enemy." Remini also claimed that Katie Holmes endured similar pressures during her marriage to Cruise. After their 2012 divorce, Holmes virtually disappeared from the public eye for an extended period, leading many to speculate that she had been under intense scrutiny while married to Cruise. Even more shocking, Remini revealed that during her marriage to Cruise, Holmes had once written a letter to Scientology leadership denouncing Remini. In the letter, Holmes allegedly described her as a disruptive influence who frequently asked inappropriate questions about the church. Yet, ironically, just a few years later, Holmes found herself in Remini's exact position, breaking away from Scientology, fighting to protect her daughter Suri, and severing all ties with the organization. Reflecting on the betrayal, Remini admitted, "She wrote a letter condemning me, yet she ended up doing exactly what I did, leaving Scientology and trying to shield her child from it." For Remini, the public only sees a carefully curated version of Tom Cruise. On the surface, he is a Hollywood megastar, a philanthropist, and a beloved action hero, but behind closed doors, she described him as a man deeply obsessed with power, control, and unwavering loyalty to Scientology. In one of her most damning statements, she declared, "Tom Cruise may do good things, but he is also capable of causing far more harm than people realize." Despite the controversy, Cruise continues to present himself as Hollywood's golden boy. But those who have worked closely with him from co-stars to former Scientology members, have suggested there is much more beneath the surface. Is he simply an action legend, or is he something far more complex and troubling? Whether he is celebrated or condemned, one thing is certain. Tom Cruise remains one of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures, and the more people try to understand him, the more mysteries seem to emerge. Do you think Leah Remini exposed the real Tom Cruise, or is this just her personal perspective?